I remember somewhere in that time, Berimbolo came out from all the
Yeah.
Mendez bros.
Yep. Yep.
And I remember every blue belt, and myself included,
Mhm.
was like, I gotta learn the Berimbolo. And I just
Yeah.
said, screw the fundamentals,
Yeah.
screw passing.
Yep. Yep.
Let me just learn De La Hiva and Berimbolo.
Exactly.
And then it became like a joke, right? Like
Yeah.
it's almost like in striking, I want to learn the fancy spinning stuff versus like basic.
Mhm.
But I remember being so obsessed with Berimbolo and
Yeah.
like Baby Bolo, Kiss of the Dragon, like these all these
Yeah.
like yeah, that was a new thing. And then somewhere what 17, 18 leg locks
Mhm.
blew up, I think.
Yeah.
Wow. I think even the environment too. Like
Mhm.
one of the things I really admire, Jason, is that when I first came, the
Mhm.
2020,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
was like, dude, I just really enjoyed how welcoming you are, especially like coming to a different island.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes it's like, hey, green light, like,
Oh yeah.
like green
Target.
light this,
Yeah.
hey, sick the toughest ones on here, like that kind.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you're just like this after, you're like,
I
holy
know.
shit,
I know.
and you're like, well, I'm just fighting for your life. And
Yeah.
and I didn't feel that at all first time and today, and it's just like, but that's a testament to you,
Oh, thank
who
you.
you are, how you do it.
Yeah.
And me and Andrew would always talk about it, and like, oh man, like I just love Jason, the vibe, how he culture, class, how you treat people. And yeah, you're somebody that I really admire, look up to, try to emulate like culture along with my professor Nakai. um
That's
and
an honor.
yeah, I was just like, dang, this is because up until that point it was always more either MMA focused, so
Mhm.
you're just in there to like compete and fight.
Yep. Yep.
um and then the times I did live in the mainland was Carlson Gracie
Mm.
in Seattle when I lived at my other half, and then in Florida it was American Top Team. And so like they're all like hard
Hardcore.
pressure. Carlson Gracie never give them an inch, smash. and
Yeah.
and so and then and then I'm just like, hey, you get injured.
Yeah.
You just get injured too much. And I was like, oh, I'm not like 21 anymore.
Yeah.
Like I cannot play this like every match is to win kind of
Right.
thing. I mean, every role is to win.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know if I can think like that.
Yeah.
Um, and and I remember just thinking like the people talking to them yesterday. I was like, dang, like I remember you guys like 3 years. Kekoa,
Cool.
Tiger, and what was that
Yeah.
brother's name that plays the guitar?
Eric.
Eric.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all blue belts now, and
Mhm.
it's crazy. And then Kekoa too, like all his like, dude, he's just ninja techniques. I saw him flying kimuras. You know what I mean? I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, flying dart. I'm like, what are
Yeah.
you doing, bro?
I
Like this is
know.
sick, bro.
I know.
So exciting.
Typical 18-year-old.
I
Yeah.
love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, always a good time. But that's a testament to your teaching style.
Mhm.
Where did you kind of like get this teaching style? Because
Yeah.
I remember, yesterday you were saying like it wasn't like that when you were coming up, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't like that at all. Same thing for you. Like we. I mean, I started like garage jujitsu here in Hawaii, just learning some stuff, and it was
Huh.
tough back then. But then, um, when I moved to California,
Uh-huh.
Northern California, like the closest, we lived way up in the mountains. The closest actual real jujitsu school was like about an hour away in Sacramento.
1 hour.
Yeah, an hour drive. So we would drive an hour to go train,
Dang.
and it was. I mean, we were looking for what the best schools were, and so we just went with one of the best names in jiu-jitsu at the time, Hickson Gracie. Yeah, still is legend.
Right. Wait,
But
he
it
was
wasn't under
there.
Hickson. It
Oh,
was
okay, okay.
Hickson's black belt
And this was.
in Sacramento.
Oh,
Yeah,
dang.
so we learned from just white belt, all the basic fundamentals, old school stuff. Self defense was a big part of it, and same thing. I got injured over there too. And, I mean, nothing to do with that, but just like back then, even if you're a white belt and you don't know much, I
Mm.
was running with a brown belt and got stacked pass and just steamrolled over.
Ah.
My neck got injured. I mean, I kept training and everything, but The hour drive was pretty tough. So
I
we
bet.
do about 2 classes a week, so it wasn't that much.
Mhm.
Learn, come back, and then drill what we learned. We're just eager to
Mm.
learn and
Mhm.
go back next week. And as we got more into it, we started looking for something that maybe a little bit closer.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's when we found out in Lodi, California, it was about 45 minutes away,
Mhm.
was Caesar Gracie.
Caesar
Yeah,
Gracie.
Caesar Gracie's academy over
Oh.
there. So that was real random. What happened was, being from Hawaii, I was looking for another kimono.
Yeah.
Back then, you had, Atama was a big one.
Oh, that's right.
Corral. And so,
Oh yeah.
but I was looking for, you start, okay, I'm really into this. I'm going to buy a new kimono. And then the guys from Kauai Kimono, that was
Was that
pretty big.
Vandal?
No,
No,
Kauai
it was just
Kimono.
called Kawaii.
Yeah.
Oh. Oh.
So these two guys, Jonathan Greek,
Uh-huh.
was one of them. He's the one that was there training. I think he was getting ready for Worlds
Uh-huh.
at Caesar Gracie's spot. So we're on Facebook or something. He's like, "Oh, come down to this gym and pick up the kimono here."
Oh.
And so we drove there. And when I got there, it was realized it was Nick and Nate Diaz's school under Caesar Gracie. And I mean, the vibe there was, it was intense because it's like a lot of hammers,
Mhm.
MMA focus, and the
Damn.
boxing ring, and pretty much everybody there were MMA fighters, but then training in the gi.
Mm.
Nick wasn't there because he was fighting a lot back
It
then.
makes sense. Yeah. At the time.
He was already black belt under Caesar, and then Nate Diaz at the time was brown belt. I remember him coming to classes.
Wow.
And then Randy Spence, who's like OG, up with the Nick Diaz army, like he was the one that was there greeting me.
Oh.
He was a purple belt at the time.
Yeah.
He was super cool. Just kind of made me feel real comfortable,
Wow.
and so yeah, just kept going back there.
Oh.
And so that's kind of like how it all started there in Northern California,
Uh-huh.
and that helped to really like it was a catalyst to like push me into jiu-jitsu, like get me so stoked to keep training. But it was like, when you're white belt and you're training that environment, you kind of feel like you got this like superpower now.
Yeah. Yeah. I can handle against normal people. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Back then it was like UFC was so big back then too, and the WEC and all that. So,
WEC.
remember
That's
that?
right.
Yeah. And so
Wow.
like you're constantly watching fights and you're learning and I was doing a lot more striking back then too because I was doing karate
Mm.
and I was training a little bit of Muay Thai too.